Gwen Gregory.
Here.
Diane Hollister.
Here.
Jay Caston.
Here.
Sarah McCone Chase. Here. Paul Mills.
Here.
Scott Poynton.
Here. Button.
Dee Runnels.
Here.
Nadia Shake.
Here.
Thomas Stagg.
Here. Well, that was really exciting, everybody. I feel we've kind of exhausted everything we can probably accomplish today. Thank you, Emily, and thank you, Wes. It is always, a challenge to connect everyone this way. So next we have recognition of guests and announcements, and we will start here in Burr Ridge. Please.
Mary Witt Rails.
Mark Hatch, Rails.
Joe Philippak, Rails.
Anna Duff, Rails.
Emily Feister Rails.
Jane Plass, Rails.
Deirdre Brennan, Rails.
Wes.
Wes.
Sorry, Wesley Smith, Rails.
Ann Slaughter, Rails.
Jim Krieger, Rails.
All right. Do we have any guests either on Zoom or on the phone? Doesn't sound like it. Kendall, we have you in East Peoria.
Hi, Kendall in East Peoria. Anna is here as well, and since we have no other guests, I'm going to go attend remotely in my office.
All right, thank you, Kendall. Wes, do we have any other sites connected?
Looks like Patty Querum is connected.
In East Peoria.
Yeah. There's Burr Ridge, East Peoria, Bolingbrook right now. Whole Valley seem to be unavailable.
Bolingbrook the room looks dark. Is anyone there in Bolingbrook? Doesn't sound like it. So we have East Peoria and the Illinois State Library has not connected yet, correct, sir?
Correct.
Okay. All right, well, along with this, do we have any public comment here in Burr Ridge? Any public comment? Do we have any public comment on Zoom or on the phone? In East Peoria, the room does look empty now, but any site I haven't mentioned, anyone who's connected to the meeting who would like to offer public comment, this is your opportunity. All right, we will move on to adoption of the agenda. An agenda was posted online quite a few days ago. So may I have a motion and a second for the adoption of the agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
Dave and Scott, any comments about the agenda? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? We have adopted the agenda. All right, now we're on to something really fun on the agenda, the oath of office and election of officers. So if I may ask the newly elected board members to please stand.
Re-election.
Yeah.
Gotta be you.
That would be you. That would, yes. I think, all right. Now, actually,
Thank you.
yes. Does actually everyone have the oath in front of them?
Yes.
So yes, Emily was efficient as always. Actually, if you could all please recite the oath of office together.
I do solemnly swear
that I will
support
the
The Constitution of the United States
and the
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and
that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Directors of the Reaching Across Illinois Library System according to the best of my ability.
Well, that was well done, everybody. and welcome to the Rails Board. It's wonderful to have you all here. All right, well, our next topic under this is election of officers. As you saw in your packet, the slate of officers recommended by the nominating committee was included in your agenda packet. The floor is also open to nominations as well. So are there, in addition to the slate of officers, are there any nominations from the floor? All right, well, if there are no other nominations, may I have a motion to approve the slate of officers as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we had Michael and
Jay.
Jay. All right, and actually, just, what we should do, just for the record to recite them, the slate of officers was Paul Mills, myself as president, Gwen Gregory as vice president, Sue Busenbark as secretary, and Tom Stagg as treasurer. That is the slate that was recommended by the Rails Nominating Committee. All those in favor of the slate as presented, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The slate is accepted, and thank you all, and thank you for all the folks who volunteered to be officers to serve. And I am very honored and very humbled to serve as your president this year. So thank you very much. I said I will go on with the agenda, Scott, but thank you, though. Next, we have approval of the Rails board minutes, financial reports, and expenditures. The first item we have is the Rails board minutes of the June 28th, 2019 regular meeting. Why do I say June 28th, actually? We actually met. That's a bit of a typo I think we've got there. Actually, it's in my notes. I apologize. We have a typo. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the June 2019 meeting as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Nadia.
I'll second.
Yes, I do apologize. That was Friday, June 28th, 2019. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as presented? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The minutes are accepted as presented. Thank you much. We are now moving on to the financial report, and we're asking Mr. Jim Krieger to deliver said report.
Good afternoon. The Rails financial report for the 12 months ending June 30th are included in your package. This report concludes our fiscal year 2019. This is an unaudited draft of the report. There will be some changes to it as we proceed through the audit, but virtually everything in revenues and expenditures has been recorded through now, and it's basically been a very good year for us. Our June 30th unassigned general fund cash and investment balances, which is $15 million, would fund an estimated 16 months of operations, a year and 1/3. Our balances increased $1.5 million from the May balance because we received 2 payments of our area and per capita grant totaling $2,145,000. An additional payment of $1,072,500 was received on July 1st, and that is booked as revenues. We do have the potential to record 3 more payments if we receive as revenue for this fiscal year if we receive them before August 30th, per our government accounting rules. Our general fund revenues were $15,604,000 and change. They're $3,448,000 above our budget, as we received a significant amount of area and per capita grant revenues pertaining to both fiscal year 18 and fiscal year 19 in about even amounts. We had $6.4 million of fiscal year 18 award and $6.8 million of the fiscal year 19 award. Basically, the state has done much better this year on the timeliness of their payments. So we caught up and we received everything left over from fiscal year 18, which was a significant amount, $6.4 million, and we've received $6.8 million of fiscal year 19 revenues. Investment income was $335,000 for the year, and that was over budget by $116,000 as interest rates increased significantly through the year, but they have moderated and are slightly declining now, but still at a much better level than they had been. The general fund expenditures were $741,000 below budget. Last month, I believe they were about $900,000 and below budget, and I said that we do some catch up, which we have, and they're right about what I anticipated. We're going to be well under budget for the year. The major variances are in personnel, contractual services, buildings and grounds, and professional services. Our personnel expenditures were much lower, lower than budget this year because of delayed hirings of open positions, and then late in the year, the filling of two unbudgeted positions. Notably, the I forget his title, but our data, Grant, data guru, I'll say, and administrative assistant for position, and these are both in the budget for next year now. The contractual services expenditures were $253,000 below budget, mostly because of lower catalog membership grants, which still were significant, $362,000, but we budgeted $615,000. And professional services were below from lower consulting costs, as certain expenditures that were budgeted were not incurred. Delivery was 34.4% of our total spending this year, and the LSAP support was 16.9%. And capital projects came in $182,000 below budget. We bought the vehicles that we had budgeted for, but other expenditures for possible lease build-outs and the Burr Ridge tuck pointing, the lease build-outs were not incurred, and the tuck pointing came in well below budget. And last but not least, the general fund balance thus far has increased by $4.2 million for the year, and that's because of the catch-up of the area and per capita grant revenues. So we're in a much better position than we were at the end of last year. Can I answer any questions?
Any questions for Jim?
One other comment is the financial statements will be presented at the September board meeting as part of the annual report, and we'll have a presentation by Sikich, which audits our financial statements, and they'll be much more inclusive than this, and it will also include our asset items such as our buildings. It'll be a full report, and our pension liabilities. But we have the basics here of our governmental funds.
All right, well, Jim, your report will be filed for audit, as all your reports are.
Yep.
Jim,
Could I say a couple of things,
Please.
Mr. President?
Please.
I would just like to point out a couple of things. Number one, you will note, the board does not approve the financial report because it is an unaudited report. We learned this from Nancy Sylvester, I believe, at a conference. We approved the expenditures, but not this report. Also, I think at a future meeting, we will delve more into the monthly financial report, just to, Jim will take you through it more, I think, just to really acquaint you with it. We thought you probably had enough of that kind of information today, but, so, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Jim, would you care to discuss the approval of expenditures?
Yes, the listing of expenditures are at the end of, not the very last page, which is a listing of our credit card expenditures, but the pages right before that is a listing of all expenditures that we made during the month of June, and which total $827,316.64. And the board does a roll call approval of these expenditures, but I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding any specific expenditures that are listed.
Anyone have any questions for Jim? If not, may I have a motion for approval of the expenditures for June of 2019?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Jay, Nadia, thank you very much. Emily, would you please call a roll?
Sure. Dave Barry.
Yes.
Sue Busenbarg.
Yes,
Michael Campbell.
Yes.
Ellie Cox.
Yes.
Selena Gomez Valois.
Yes.
Gwen Gregory,
Yes.
Diane Hollister,
Yes.
Dick Caston.
Yes.
Sarah McCone Chase.
Yes.
Paul Mills,
Yes.
Scott Pointon,
Yes.
Dee Runnels,
Yes.
Nadia Shay,
Yes.
Thomas Stagg.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, we now move on to reports, and the first one is a report from the Rails president, which would be me. I'm just very happy to be here. Just a few words about me. If you don't know me, I, for many years, used to work for predecessor regional library systems in the state, the Heritage Trail Library System, the Prairie Area Library System. I strongly believe in the mission of regional library systems and our ability to lift up libraries of all types. And it is, just want to say, it is a privilege to serve as your president, and I am looking forward to what will be a great year serving all the libraries in our community. And with that, I will move on to the mini committee reports. First up, we have the Advocacy Committee, which is Gwen. Gwen, do you have a report?
No, the Advocacy Committee did not meet.
Okay. Thank you, Gwen. It appears my name has come up again for the Consortia Committee. This was my date confusion. The Consortia Committee met on July 15th this month. That's where I was thinking about the 15th.
Yeah.
We did discuss Simply E. For those of you who are new to the board, Simply E is a project that's developed by the New York Public Library, and it's being supported by various consortia throughout the United States. It's designed to make it easier for patrons to have a single interface to acquire and read ebook content. You know, right now, if you're an ebook user, you probably have Overdrive on your phone, you may have Cloud Library on your phone, you may have the Access 360 app from eRead Illinois, one of the projects that our regional library system supports in the state. This is an effort to save, following those old rules of library law, save the time of the reader and make it easier for them to acquire that content. The Pinnacle Library Cooperative, along with a few other libraries, has been piloting this, providing feedback on how it works. Just so you know, we have several staff at my library have been using it on iPhones. We just got the Android app last week, very, very soon. So we just discussed progress on that, and there will be future reports. Jim had mentioned actually Grant Halter, who is a relatively new Rails employee, designed to provide data analysis for the system and our members. Grant had actually done an initial analysis of all the consortia in Rails, specifically the supported consortia through Rails funding and other means. And we had an interesting conversation about that and probably gave him a lot of work to go back with and refine that. We did discuss the future of Share Illinois without getting too deep in the LSAP weeds. This was a project that started a long time ago designed to facilitate sharing among consortia in Illinois. There have been advances in technology, changes in what Rails offers. That means we're probably going to be sunsetting this. And if you really want to talk to me about it, I will talk to you after the meeting for a good 20, 30 minutes about Share Illinois. I think those are the highlights from consortia. Deirdre, Jane, Ann, did I forget anything that should be brought to the board's attention? Okay.
Summer.
All right, thank you all. Oh, look, it's me again with the executive committee. The executive committee has not met, but will be meeting in the future because we do have an opening for a position on our board representing school libraries. The executive committee will be charged with reviewing those applications and making our recommendations. So more to come in the future from the executive committee. And Gwen, I get to turn it back to you, ma'am, for policy.
The Policy Committee has not met.
That's an excellent report, Gwen. Jane, Resource Sharing Committee?
Not met either.
All right. We come to Universal Service Committee. Sue and Deirdre?
Have not met.
Have not met. Hopefully
you
soon.
You guys know how to deliver succinct reports. So.
Yeah.
Okay, we will move on to the Rails report and the Rails monthly report, and I will turn it over to Deirdre.
All right, thank you very much. Everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, great, okay. So, so at the beginning of my report this month, I just laid out what the purpose of this report is, which is to give you some highlights, to give you a sense of what we're doing, and always within the framework of the strategic plan. So generally what I do is highlight certain sections or add to things that have happened since I wrote this, so I'm going to do that at this point. We did have our new board member orientation this morning, and I think that from my perspective, it seemed to go pretty well. I hope it did. I'm sure that there's some, a lot of questions still, but we'll work through all those together. Paul mentioned the empty school librarian seat. So the nominations did close on Wednesday, and we received 7 nominations, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So at the last month's meeting, when we first became aware we were going to have this vacancy, the board did agree amongst themselves to really put this on the fast track so that we have a school rep. And because this term does end in next June, it's only 1 year left. So at this point, we would recommend to the executive committee that they try to interview and select somebody during the month of August, if that is possible, so that we can have somebody in place by the fall. So we will be getting back to you about that with, doodle polls and other kinds of things. Questions such as, do you want to interview everyone? We did have them submit statements of interest, etc. So that's an update on that. Anything you want to say at this point?
I'm really pleased that we got 7 nominations.
I know.
That's wonderful.
Yes, so are we. Yes, yes.
Can the executive board then choose their own member from the 7 or?
So the executive committee, which is a subset of this board, which we will be discussing later,
Yes.
is the way that the bylaws read is that the executive committee picks someone, selects someone, yes.
It's essentially the officers, right, the executive committee.
Plus an
Plus an
at-large
at-large member,
member, yes,
yes.
yes. Yeah, so we're, just, try to speed that along, so, yeah. Okay. The other thing I just wanted to say was also that the policy committee, this is in my report, is going to have the fun and interesting job of looking at the policy manual. So the policy committee will be meeting
A lot.
often. And we did have also yesterday, we had our staff in service today in East Peoria. So it's been quite a busy week for everyone. And but I don't think I have anything else to add, but I would be happy to answer any questions.
In addition to those, the Illinois Library Association had their annual
Yes.
conclave, I don't know what to call it, where all their committees get together once a year, and actually it's, I think, worth noting that Rail's staff were well represented on the committees there, which was, very, very nice to see.
And the board.
And yes, and Rail's, there were Rail's board members there too. We need to coordinate better around carpooling, but that's another issue.
This is
Any
Sue.
questions?
This is Sue.
Please go ahead,
I have
Sue.
a question. The trustee training, is the lady that's presenting that the same lady that presented at the trustee day last spring? Nancy Sylvester, I think is her name.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. She was very good, so, okay.
Yes, she is very good.
Yes, okay. Thank you. I may try to go to one of those.
Thank you, Sue.
Yep.
Any other questions? Any other questions regarding the Rails report or the consortia report, which is something that is produced for the consortia committee meetings, and then the written report is shared with the board. All right. Wes, did the Illinois State Library connect? No.
We've got, I don't know if their internet or their phones are down. But
Oh.
There's not even voicemail we can call, so.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah, we were trying to figure out if it was some state holiday we didn't know about, or. No answer there, so.
Well,
And I emailed 5 people, and Karen Egan, I got an out of office reply, but that was the only one. And Joe
Wow.
was trying to.
all right.
Yeah, Jody called 5 people and there's no answer, so.
Well, I hope everything's okay.
I know.
Yeah.
I think they just don't need to oversee.
Just, I don't think I heard anyone else connect, but just to put it out there, is anyone from the state library out there in Zoom or on the phone? Thought I'd ask.
Wow,
All
that's,
right, well, if they're able to connect later, we can certainly come back.
that is unprecedented.
It is. All right, we are down to new business already, folks. Agenda item number 9, and it's only, my gosh, 1:31. This is quite the efficient meeting. I believe I had the opportunity to communicate with everyone about potential committee appointments, and everyone was very positive and accepting. I really appreciate that. The committee works make the work of our organization flow so much better, so your participation is very much appreciated and very much valued. So with that, and actually one thing I would like to note, you do have in your packet the list of all the committees and members. A question that had come up regarding the executive committee. In addition to the officer slate that was appointed, the recommendation is to also include Dave Barry as our at-large member. That was listed on your committee, the committee sheet as well. So with that, may I have a motion and a second to approve the appointments for the fiscal year 2020 Rails board committees?
So moved.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Michael. Is there any conversation, any discussion about the appointments? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Again, thank you all for your service, and your committee chairs will be contacting you.
I did get an update
Yes.
from, Jody spoke to a staff member at the State Library, and no one can attend the meeting today. So I think
Okay.
everything is fine, but nobody is going to be reporting.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
I have a quick question. For the committees, when the committee chairs contact the committee members, is that due to FOIA or whatnot, Open Meetings Act? Will they be doing that through our Rails email or?
Through Rails email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Under new business, we have a report from Mark Hatch regarding Rails facilities. Mark, would you like to come up here, sir? There was a written report, was included in your packet as well.
Good afternoon. Yes, my report is actually in your packet.
Please, sir.
I'm just going to highlight a couple of the areas actually on the documents that are, I think, are somewhat important. We could start with the Burr Ridge facility assessment. I want to start by saying that this report is only for budgeting purposes primarily. I think, and then as far as the timelines are concerned, those dates are primarily the manufacturer's timeline and not necessarily when we have to replace things. I wanted to start off with that. So if you look at some of the dates, we have quite a few items that are supposed to could possibly be due in 2020 next year. Overall, it could be as low as $5,000 or as high as the $350,000 that we've got budgeted there. But I think with good preventive maintenance, which I think we have been doing over the last several years, that the life expectancy on a lot of our equipment is going to go way past the expected manufacturer's timeline. So I'm not really too concerned when it comes to the amount that we have budgeted here. And like I said, these are only primarily just for budgeting purposes. Any questions concerning that report before I switch over to the facilities report? Yes, sir.
I noticed the LED lighting. And a couple of years ago, we got a grant for that. And I'm wondering if there are any grants available, because $10,000 is a lot of money.
It is.
And And I know that there's still some of those grants around for those kinds of things, of switching over to that even, so I don't know if you've looked into any of that.
What we were doing in this particular case was actually using the program through ComEd. We actually had ComEd come out and do a facility assessment, and we get really good discounts by using their vendors, which, let's say a $10 bulb we can get for $6 or $4 or something like that by using one of their authorized. And it's going to equal out to be the same if we get a grant, because we can't get a grant for the whole project. The other problem that we have is we have 900 bulbs in this building. So that's 450 plus light fixtures. So it's going to be costly because of that. Just for the bulbs themselves, it's quite expensive because of the quantity that we actually have in the building.
Mark, how many different types of bulbs do you have?
That's a good question. What we're currently using now are the T8s. A couple of years ago, we actually did use the grant from the Illinois Clean Energy, where we used the grant, and we used a company called Project Green to actually switch over and convert everything, the balances, the bulbs and things like that, from the T12 to the T8s. So we do have the T8s. We don't have a lot of other bulbs in here. We do have a Lutron system in the washroom, and then also in the new break room area and things like that, which is a very sophisticated system that still confuses me, so, but that's primarily about it. Everything else is switched over to the T8s.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's what we would like to eventually just upgrade to the LED. Outside, we already switched to LEDs outside, and that was actually part of that program, that when we did the T12 to the T8s, we actually were able to put the LEDs outside. So we do have the LEDs in the parking lot already.
Nice.
So those are already there.
Would you like to say a few words about the fascinating relationship between the heating system and the lighting system?
Well.
We had that same system in our old library.
Wow. Our building was built in 1969. Unfortunately, back then, this was state of the art, where your HVAC system is actually bringing your air in around the vents or the slats next to your light fixtures. We still have those in our building. All 400 of these plus fixtures are designed that way. So we've got a state-of-the-art HVAC system upstairs and an antiquated system to get it down here. However, switching this building out from that type of system, to this type of system here is going to be a fortune, because there's new ductwork, there's new light fixtures. We're going to have to replace the entire ceiling structure. So we've been hesitant on that because of the dollar figure that it would take to actually do that. So that's why we're going to piecemeal with the LEDs and things like that until it gets to a point where we're forced to have to replace the ceiling, which Jim's going to have to open up his pocketbooks, And it's going to be quite expensive. It would be quite expensive because we're talking about the whole thing, so. But any other questions concerning this report? Okay, let's switch over to the facilities report. What I was just doing here is providing you guys with an update on the facilities that we have. As you can see that As you can see that we've got two buildings that we own. If you look at the third column, it's just referencing the buildings that we own and that we lease, the staff in each one of the buildings, when our lease expires, our monthly rent costs and things of that nature, and then comments that I thought was interesting that you guys could possibly use, and then any pending projects. I wanted to just highlight, if you go to our Ridge, and that's actually when you go to the report itself, and it's item number 6 or bullet point number 6. This is the interesting one. This is the one where we've got our sinkhole in the front driveway. So we're still working with the village of Burr Ridge. I believe it is just some type of structure, possibly the sewer collapsed or something of that nature, and that is where the structure is coming from. Luckily, this won't be an expense that rails would have to incur. It would be a village responsibility. And also, when you look at further down in the report, it states something about the bubbling of the water from the back parking lot as well. And I believe that's related because of the backup. Because of the backup from the front, it just pushes it to the back. When you watch the water flow, when you look down in the sewers, it's pretty much stagnant when it should actually be moving. So that's why we believe it is more of a backup or a collapsing of the sewer, which should be, we're on the schedule. We just don't know when we're gonna, get them out here to actually do the work, but that was the most interesting part of the report, I thought, was just providing that information because that's gonna be an ongoing project, Then we would then most likely have to redo the parking lot, repave the parking lot, because of, I believe the structural issues, actually not necessarily structural issues, but with the water coming up, we sort of messed up the integrity of our asphalt and things of that nature. I would like to just go ahead and wipe it out and then start over again, and that would be our responsibility, so, yeah. Can I answer any questions? Yes, sir.
I have a somewhat related question regarding maintenance of our delivery vehicles.
Yes.
With the new vehicles that we acquire and we purchase, is there a system in it to remind us when the maintenance is due? Or how do we handle it? Or how do you supervise, oversee that?
We actually have a couple of different things in place. We actually have a log that we actually keep. For every vehicle that we've got, we have a maintenance log.
Handwritten?
It's actually right on the computer system that we actually enter the information right onto the computer system. We also have a tracking software, T-Mobile tracking software, that tells us exactly when the oil changes are due and things of that nature. So we do have several things in place. We really like to get our money's worth out of our vehicles. And I think, we've got good companies that service our vehicles and things like that. So we're actually able to get 250,000, even 300,000 miles out of our vehicles, so. But we do have it in the budget to purchase 7 new vehicles this year. Somewhat of a delay right now in ordering those vehicles because CMS, Central Management Service, has not awarded the contract to a dealership yet. But it's definitely worth the wait, primarily because we can get $35,000 vehicles for $24,000. So it's definitely worth the wait, So I was actually doing some comparison from individuals that actually went out for bid, and using the state contract was so much lower, than going out for bid, So, but we have a couple of things. I'm sorry, that was sort of a long, drawn-out answer and whatnot. But we do have a lot of things to keep our vehicles running. So.
Thank you.
Great. Yes, sir.
I believe it's Cole Harbor. Is Cole Harbor still for sale?
Cove Valley.
Yeah, Cove Valley is not on the market.
Are you interested?
D'Angelo wants to go really cheap and getting rid of that building, and I'm kind of going the opposite direction. She'll give it to you for $1.
Last year when I came on the board, it was for sale.
It's been for sale off and on for most of the lifetime of rails.
Right.
Where is it located again?
It's on
Cove Valley.
Cove Valley.
Way out west.
Near Moline.
The issue, and if you don't mind, just give me a little history on that particular building. That building was built for systems. However, the way it was designed was not, it's going to be difficult for a lot of people to use it. You're going to need an organization like an accountant or somebody like that can go into that building, primarily because of the structure. In the back of the building, it's built on rails, or racks or something like that holds up the second side of the building. So the shelving, exactly, the shelving and whatnot. So that's one issue. The second issue is when the city redid the streets and things like that, they sort of built the street above where the building is, so you've got to know it's down there. In this cove, we like to call it, to where you've got to actually drive around the drive to go down into where the building is located. So having foot traffic is going to be a unique problem for an individual. because they're not gonna find the building. I remember my first time going out there, my GPS said, "You're here," but I didn't see the building. So it's one of those unique type of problems, so, eventually we'll eventually get rid of the building, but it's gonna have to be the right type of organization that's gonna go in there that doesn't need the foot traffic, that doesn't need to be able to, person need to be able to see it from the street, so. But right now, it's not on the market, yeah.
Mark, not that I want to keep you up here forever, but
Yeah, no
particularly
problem.
for our newer board members, a lot
Yes.
of the, in the comments fields, multiple buildings note that they're a month-to-month agreement or pending what the LASA study determines. Would you mind just, I think it would be really useful for everyone just to be up to speed about what LASA, sorry, yes, is.
LASA is the Laboratory of Applied Spatial Analysis. This is a group out of SIU Edwardsville that we've been working with. They have been assisting us in our routing with our delivery department. This is a group that uses, bless you, geospatial. Jane, help me with that. What is it? How do they, as far as?
GIS.
GIS, I'm thinking, right, GIS. They use GIS and whatnot. It's a very fascinating group. They provided us, we met with them, they looked at, analyzed a lot of our routing data. They looked at our hubs. They're still looking at our hubs to determine if our hubs are in the right place. They're looking at our exchange point between North and South, which is our sister company, the Illinois Cardinal Library System and Rails. We exchange material in the middle of the night. 5 days a week, So that's another conversation that I could have about that as well.
It's a book deal. Middle of the night book deal.
I'm sorry?
It's a book deal.
In the middle of the night.
So that's what the LASA group is. This is a group, like I said, within SIU Edwardsville, great group of guys that are helping us from a technology standpoint. They've provided great recommendations on how we can save dollars, reduce our routes and things like that on the street. A lot of the recommendations, one of the recommendations was to combine some of our routes that are going to the exchange point, versus having all of our routes go. We could piggyback, have one route pick up 2 locations and so forth, which is a huge savings. It also helped us with a back-end shuttle that was very costly, very expensive, that we had a couple of years ago, that we were able to remove that completely off of the street as well. So working with that group has been outstanding, overall.
It also could affect the buildings themselves.
Yes.
And that's, more specifically, why we have these open agreements or open-ended agreements if we need or want to move.
Right.
To consolidate our staff or to, move delivery around.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, majority of our leases are on an annual basis, and we've got them pretty much almost to end at the same time.
Right.
Or we're on a month-to-month like what we are in, actually it's a 60-day out in our East Peoria operation. So we tried to structure the leases that way so that if we did need to move, nothing's gonna hold us back. So we're on an annual pretty much on everything.
Any other questions for Mark?
Comments?
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
The reason I did ask Mark to talk about that, this has been a multi-year project, looking at delivery services, which is a core service of our system. And the rail staff, I think, has done an excellent job doing the thorough research to make sure we are being good stewards of taxpayer dollars and getting the most bang for our buck out of the delivery services. So, thank you again, Mark.
Paul, maybe a quick update on the state library.
Yes.
No one is able to attend.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did that. Thank you, Wes.
You got
We did
that,
it.
okay.
Yes, thank you.
We will not
I
take
guess
it
they
personally.
forgot about us.
I
though.
know.
I guess you were right, Wes,
They're happy with us.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, so under unfinished business, item 10, we have the Rails Board meeting schedule for fiscal year 2020. Deirdre, would you like to say a few words about this?
Sure. So You see in your packet the draft schedule for the remainder of this calendar year as well as for the first 6 months of next year. So for the fiscal year, this reflects the board's desire to move around for the main meeting sites while bearing in mind the possible interference of Illinois weather, of the things we might like to do in certain months. So this is, and it's of course also, predicated on what sites are available at different times. So all of this has been confirmed in L2 that these sites are available. If you would like to go to other sites, we can certainly look into that as well. And obviously, we need to find some place to be in March because we don't have a site for that.
Yes.
So I think we worked out the technology so that we could have a meeting at UIC
Okay,
sometime.
okay, that'd be great. Okay, so we'll just have to put that together and find the right date. Okay. But we do need to, I don't know if it's just our bylaws or the System Act or Open Meeting Act, but we do need to post an annual schedule of dates. It can always be revised,
Yes.
but of dates and places.
Do we want to tentatively pick one of our open dates for UIC, Gwen? Or do you need to confirm more?
Well, so would people prefer to have a meeting when there are students on campus or not? I mean, when there's students on campus, it's more exciting because there's students there. But it's less exciting in terms of parking.
Or it's even
But
more
that's
exciting.
okay. So I was just going to look and see if March 27th is during spring break or not. Do you think that having it at UIC is a weather hazard? I mean, it's like in the Chicago, it's not harder than getting here, really.
Towards the end of March, it's.
Probably fine. I mean,
I think it'd be wonderful to be at UIC. We have not, well, we've been, due to a recent change, before this recent change in technology using Zoom, we were very restricted in the places we could be with meetings, but Zoom has opened the door up for other places, so I would love to go to UIC.
I think it's a good idea.
What if we tentatively say the March one, and then I
Okay.
will, I will have to arrange the exact stuff.
oh, yes, we'll need to involve IT and do
Yeah.
all those various things. Okay,
That'd be wonderful, Gwen, thank you.
yep.
That'll be great, and we can have tours of the library or all different kinds of things like that.
That'd be great.
Yep, thank you.
So that does leave June. So if you look at, if we are primarily in Burr Ridge, but we're talking about Coal Valley, we're tentatively scheduled to go there. Also New Lenox, East Peoria, which Kendall used to be in, but we have a nice view of the room. Other possibilities, places we've been in past years, we have been to Cherry Valley, which is up in the Rockford area.
We've been to Aurora.
We've been to Aurora, the Aurora Public Library. A place we have not been, and I don't know if it would work for them to host us, we've not been to the far eastern part of our system, so the Kankakee Public Library,
true,
which
we
is a
have not.
site. That's a possibility, but certainly if board members have a suggestion for a place we could go in June, or, suggestion for other dates, locations specifically, for those dates, I'd love to hear them.
We've never been to Macomb, it's far, but we haven't been there.
Can I give you a call back?
We've never been to Sycamore, which is not
That's
as
true.
far,
Be really close to me.
Yes.
yeah, which would be good.
But
yeah.
it's, I think the virtue, so my impetus for bringing this up is I think there's a virtue in the constituencies represent having an opportunity to travel to see us without having quite the
Absolutely.
drive.
And you're right, we've never been to Kankakee.
Is there a certain, what kind of requirements are needed in order to host a meeting at this point? I mean, if now Zoom has opened it up, I think that might help in terms of figuring out which libraries might be able to do it, not only in the room size, but in the equipment. Because I don't know this,
Well,
I'm still
there's,
learning the geography, but none of this is very far north.
there's certainly a benefit, I mean, I don't know, perhaps a requirement to having some video conferencing technology in place. Yes?
Yeah, having, I mean,
Because-
traveling with cameras in general and microphones is not fun.
Because we have to be able to connect things up, and that requires certain technology that not, some is already installed in these locations that we were mentioning, and some is, UIC has that, so that's really more, and Kankakee does, because, now, as far as going north, we have a site at Vernon. That's as far north as we have, well, maybe Cherry Valley. is probably-
Cherry Valley's far.
Cherry
Yeah,
Valley.
Cherry Valley.
So, and that's actually an important point, Selena. So when everything was a Polycom site, Rails asked different member libraries to serve as a video conference site for meetings. Equipment was installed there to facilitate that, and that really restricted us there. Zoom opens up possibilities if a site does have equipment such as UIC with Gwen. And I mentioned, when I mentioned Kankakee, Deirdre mentioned Sycamore, those are current Rails, I don't know what we call them, conference sites, video conference sites.
Video conference
Yeah, and they
sites.
do have the equipment.
Right.
And Vernon area has the equipment. And we have met at Vernon, although it's
Yes.
been a few years, but we have met at Vernon.
Yep.
Maybe it was more fair to say the main body of the meeting where most people are going to try to gather needs to have the video equipment, but Zoom is allowing people who can't make it to those remote places to still easily participate without having to drive anywhere.
With
True.
audio visual, yeah.
Yeah,
That's accurate.
It's more accurate, yes.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we look into Kankakee then for June, since we've never been there, and we'll continue to discuss the question that you have raised, Selena.
Because in my knowledge through Rails history, the board has never met in Kankakee,
That
so that would
is-
be a first.
That is true.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful town and a beautiful library.
Yeah, they have a nice space.
It is.
They do. Yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion on the proposed schedule for FY 2020? If not, may I have a motion and a second to approve the fiscal year 2020 Rails board meeting schedule as amended?
So moved. Second.
That was Dave and Jay. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carried. Thank you all. Next, we have Executive Director goals for FY 2020. Deirdre, would you like to discuss this?
Sure. So I brought this to the board last meeting, and they made a couple of suggestions and then asked me to put them as well as possible into priority order. I did agree to not make them all 1A, 1B, 1C, et cetera. And so I hope that none of these this prioritization does not offend anyone in any way. Obviously, we'd work on all of them. I would work on all of them, but they very much are reflective of the goals of the strategic plan and the goals of the organization, because how could that not be? So,
Just a little bit of background. So Deirdre's evaluation, executive director, occurred at the end of the last fiscal year. We actually presented the results of the evaluation to you in May? Is in May, yes. So the board, as constituted at the time, had a conversation with Deirdre. She, as part of her self-evaluation, had proposed goals, and then the board had proposed goals, and out of that, she synthesized, that's a word I have trouble saying, she put together this list. But it waits for approval until the newly constituted board is brought
Exactly.
together,
Thank
which
you.
is now this month.
right. And you asked last month how many I had. Last year, it was 12. I tried to get it down to 12 this
And
year.
now you have 13.
Right, so lucky 13.
Hopefully
Do I have
13
anybody-
We'll be lucky.
Pardon me?
Hopefully number 13.
Yeah.
We'll be lucky, yes.
Is that the money one?
No, that's.
Oh, universal service, yeah.
Yes.
So I'm happy to answer any questions. Obviously, the basic, implement the goals of the strategic plan, financial stability, standards. We hope we might see some funding increases for libraries next year, so work with various partners on that. Data, the campaign that you've heard about and are going to hear more about. Delivery, you've heard plenty about that already. You know about that. We're getting a lot of requests about help with the minimum wage change, help in, for libraries really, some are, don't know how to get started in terms of making the kinds of projections for how to deal with wage increases, for the next number of years. Equity, diversity, and inclusion, expanding some of our resource sharing activities, making sure we continue to do robust board engagement, Simply E you've heard about, and then we get to the universal service. So.
One thing I will say is I think Deirdre has put together ambitious goals for herself, but she and her team have proven themselves to be consummate professionals in doing amazing work. I will just say my concern is always I don't want you to.
I'm not gonna do it by myself.
I know you're not gonna do it by yourself, but they're all important goals. They're very ambitious, and I just also think it's important that we as a board set reasonable expectations for our staff too.
This is true.
People need to have a work-life balance as well.
We do progress reports on this as well as the strategic plan, so there's always an opportunity for course correction as needed.
Is this something that needs board approval?
Mm-hmm.
I would make a motion to approve these goals as presented.
Thank you, Scott.
Second.
Second for Sarah. Do we have any further discussion on Dee's ambitious goals? And I mean that in the most sincerest way. I am very impressed by the goals, and the work of this organization has been truly phenomenal. I'm just always amazed at the goals that the organization sets for itself. So,
thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you, Deirdre.
Yes, thank you.
We are now on to board development. There was a couple of things we wanted to talk about here, but, ooh, that was something. But first, if folks, particularly since we do have several new board members, if folks, we should have done this earlier. If folks on the board wouldn't mind just introducing themselves, saying what they're from, what brought them to the Rails board, I think that would be really great. And Nadia, I'm kind of looking at you.
Okay, sure. I'm Nadia Sheikh, Vice President of Carroll Stream Public Library, and been on that board for about 6 years. And what brought me to Rails was I'm a huge proponent of resource sharing. And I'm in the library probably like 2 or 3 times a week, always checking something that's unusual out, and I'm always requesting it from Swan. And now it's Swan, and big proponent of sharing resources in general. So, thank you.
Thank you, Nadia.
Tom Stagg with Alpha Park.
Oh, Diane, you missed.
Diane Hollister, Bloomington, Illinois, and I'm a trustee at Bloomington Public Library, and I'm reference librarian at Bradley University, and I'm a retiree from Peoria Public Library. And what brought me to Rails, our library director, Jeannie Hamilton, suggested that I would enjoy being on Rails, and so I gave it a try.
Great.
Here.
Welcome, Diane.
And I love libraries. I mean, I worked at all different types of libraries, special, public, and academic.
Welcome, Diane.
Thank you.
Tom Stagg with Alpha Park Public Library, and Diane actually started her career at Alpha Park. Well, one of her
Yes,
early
my
parts.
my first job at Alpha Park, my favorite library.
So I've been a trustee there for a couple of years, and John Richmond got me to run for Rails, I think just to get out of his hair.
Hi, I'm Hallie Cox. I'm the director of the Kane County Law Library and Self-Help Legal Center. I've been involved with all types of boards, from ILA to DLS to Bar Foundation boards, and I just really enjoy and am passionate about synergizing with different entities, and I love the multi-type DLS, DLS. I've aged myself. That Rails, and all the library, systems encompass in Illinois. I just love that we all sit at the same table and work together and get ideas from each other, and we're just all bigger and better and serving our patrons so much better because of that.
Selena Gomez Veloz, I'm the executive director of the Waukegan Public Library. What brought me to Rose? I think I talked a little bit too much about how I appreciate good organization and good policy and procedure to make things run well in libraries, and someone said you should. And so I did. You know, I tend to, I know that I can't do everything and make everything happy in the library, but I know that I can work in the background to make it happy for everybody else to do happy things for patrons. That's where my goals are. That's the work that I enjoy doing. So.
Welcome.
Jay Casson from the Vernon Area Public Library up in Lincolnshire, pretty far north. I've been a trustee for going on 25 years. And what brought me here was to see gain a different perspective from sitting on a board at a library. I also sit on the ILA Trustee Forum Committee, and then this perspective, and they're all so different. And I enjoy all three of them.
I'm Gwen Gregory. I'm the academic library representative here, and I work at the University of Illinois at Chicago. I'm the head of the Resource Acquisition and Management Department. And I worked at libraries in different states and seen sort of how things work in different states with more people, less people. But I really think that multi-type networking is very important, and so I'm often trying to convince people like other academic librarians about that and why it's important for them, and how all our users are really the same people. You know, the people go to high school and they use the high school library, then they come to college and use the college library, then they graduate the public library. It's all the same people. So we're serving all the same people, so might as well keep that in mind.
Thank you, Gwen. I think I've stated why I'm here, how much I value regional library systems. A bit about myself, I'm the executive director of the Fountaindale Public Library District in Bolingbrook. I'm chair of the Libraries of Illinois Risk Agency, which is a property casualty and workers' comp cooperative of about 56 libraries in the state of Illinois. We are the first and only cooperative in the nation to provide those types of services for libraries. This year, I'm also chair of the Illinois Library Association Intellectual Freedom. It's looking to be a busy year for the committee.
Yeah,
So.
sure is.
My name is Scott Poynton. I'm the director at the White Oak Library District. We serve 3 communities, Romeyville, Crest Hill, and Lockport, just south of Bolingbrook, where Paul is. I just today started my second term on the Rails board. I actually have been working in public libraries for nearly, next month starts the 28th year, which is amazing. But I've been in Illinois since 2002 and have experienced, really the benefits of systems. And when I finished the projects at my library in 2013, I thought, okay, now the house is in order, I can start to focus outward and get involved in other things. So that's what brought me to the Rails board.
I'm Sarah McCone-Chase. I'm the head of user services at Northern Illinois University. And like Nadia, I'm a really big component of resource sharing, and I just really believe in the power of consortia.
I'm Michael Campbell. I'm the vice president of Fox River Grove Memorial Library in Northern Illinois, McHenry County. And what brought me here was at one point in my career, I was the vice president of Follett Corporation. So I'm a huge proponent of school libraries. And in my current position, I work with schools on EdTech. So I do a lot of speaking, talking about innovation in schools and school libraries. And so this is what I do constantly. And so when our public library that I work with, our executive library at Fox River Grove, told me about Rails, and she had brought me to a continuing education opportunity here, and basically told me about what was going on here. that was the impetus for running for the board here. And so, so it was a, you know, a great opportunity to kind of spread the advocacy that I do on a daily basis. And it's been that opportunity ever since I joined the board a year ago. So it's been a good opportunity.
My name is Dave Berry. I'm the president of the Bartlett Public District Library Board. I just started my second term there, second 6-year term. I got involved with Rails. When I became a trustee, I talked to our director, Carolyn Nance, about more what's going on with libraries. And she said, well, basically Rails deals with the nuts and bolts of libraries. Well, ILA, Illinois Library Association, deals more with the philosophy, the public policy, etc. And she recommended that I get involved with Rails, and I have, and I've enjoyed it, and I'm in starting my last year as a trustee.
Thank you, Dave.
Sue, board member.
Oh, yes. Sue, would you be willing to share?
My name is Sue Busenbark, and I'm from Kewanee, Illinois, and I am the president of the Kewanee Public Library Board of Trustees. This will be my 20th year on that board. I was a former member of the ALS board back in the day, and my director encouraged me to run for the Rails board, which I'm starting my second term today. Every meeting I learn something, and I think that's really important to be able to see, you know, things that go on at the state level and how they trickle down to our local libraries. I apologize for not being at the meetings, these last 2 meetings. I missed the bottom step and broke my leg, and hopefully I'll be back in August.
Oh,
Thank
you, Sue.
Thank you, Sue. We wish you a speedy recovery, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I'll be able to start putting weight on it next week. So, and once
Good.
that happens, they assure me that things will progress rapidly. So we'll see.
Dee, would you be willing to share?
I'm Dee Runnels. I'm from Moline, Illinois, and I'm on the Moline Public Library Board of Directors. I've been on it for a number of years. And I became, we didn't have a lot of representation from my state, being right on the Mississippi. And I think the request was made that maybe somebody from our library would like to get on the board, and I said, sure, I'll do it. And I've really enjoyed it. I'm at filling someone's term, and then I was elected to a full board membership. So that's it.
Thank you, Dee. And thank you all for taking time to share something about yourselves. I think it's really helpful to understand what's brought us here so that we can have a good year together. Thank you. And Deirdre, I know you had some things you wanted to talk about under board development, so I'll please turn it back over to you, ma'am.
We did include a list of past topics in your packet. So you can see we've really ranged widely. So I just for you all to look over, and if you have any suggestions for additional topics. We're going to do a little bit more board development today. Mary is going to show you the new board portal. We wanted everybody to see this. I don't think we have anything planned this month, do we?
Not yet, but
So if there's something in particular you would like to know more about now, early in the year, or something that's happening right now, I wonder if we should talk about this privacy issue, Paul, next month.
There's a lot.
There's a lot going on with because of because of technology and because of the opposite of technology, I guess. But I'm wondering if we should have a conversation about that.
That's interesting to folks. I'm just, with the recent impetus, if you've been following the news, some of you may have it uses lynda.com, which is a is a wonderful resource for technology training. It was acquired by LinkedIn, which was acquired by Microsoft, if I'm keeping my acquisitions correct. They are changing the name from lynda.com to LinkedIn Learning as part of an effort to tie that more closely to the LinkedIn as a social media platform. What is particularly concerning, that is, I think, rightly viewed as a violation of the Library Bill of Rights and also the American Library Association's Code of Ethics, is that in order to continue to use this platform beginning, and I don't know what the date in September, patrons who use it will no longer simply be able to authenticate themselves with their somewhat anonymous library barcode, but they'll be able to be required to provide some PII, personally identifiable information, in order to use those resources, which is certainly counter to the values that lives for a long time. The American Library Association issued a statement this past Tuesday regarding this practice. My understanding is that the American Library Association's Intellectual Freedom Committee established or tasked a privacy subcommittee to talk directly to LinkedIn. Conveniently, Aaron, I believe that's the correct name, who is the chair of that committee, happens to work in the Bay Area and actually has had multiple face-to-face meetings actually with the LinkedIn folks. But at this point, there has been no progress in that, and thus we got the statement there. ILA's Intellectual Freedom Committee, of which I'm chair, will be recommending to ILA leadership very soon. That's probably the biggest thing that's coming to mind.
We have a Library Confidentiality Act too in Illinois that is a law that says that what information we are required to keep private as libraries and information. So it's all sort of, butting up against each other.
So maybe a discussion of privacy, the Illinois Library Records Confidentiality Act and these issues might be a great primer for the next meeting. So maybe that'd be a great topic. Yeah.
Yes.
And particularly with the issue of the pickup of holds, pickup of, self-holds in libraries, that there's been some complaints against libraries that are doing that because they think it violates patron privacy. So it's kind of that's the non-technology piece in a sense. I mean, these are all important services that libraries, users, and staff use, but there are laws, and so,
Particularly as Rail's role as providing education and support for member libraries, I think we're going to see lots of opportunities for Rails to provide continuing education opportunities for our members working through these issues. There's some nationally recognized speakers who have talked about this topic. I think there's opportunities there so that we can help our libraries navigate what's a pretty complex landscape regarding privacy. And Deirdre's point's well taken. It's not just technology. It's straightforward things, what you physically do choose to display information.
So I have a question. That act that you mentioned, does that only apply to public libraries?
I don't know. I doubt it. I think it
The
applies
Patron
to.
Confidentiality Act?
I think it applies to
I
every.
believe it's all libraries in
Yeah.
Illinois.
But that's it.
I would hope so. But it's.
I know at a minimum it covers obviously what people have, their usage, what they've checked out, but it also protects information you would collect in order to register them for an account.
Right.
So like name, address, phone number, contact information, all that.
Some have actually undertaken privacy audits, some internal, and I don't know if there's any external folks, consultants or firms that do that to actually evaluate all your practices to see if you're, compliance not only from a legal perspective, but also I think from an ethical perspective too, per the ALA's Code of Ethics. So like I said, using some positive lights. These are great opportunities for us to evaluate, I think, our practices and our philosophy and make sure that they're aligning.
Okay.
The act right now, just to see the language, and it doesn't specify it's any one kind of library, so I agree that I think it's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think we've got August.
Okay. Okay. So I think we're going to look at the portal now.
Just 1 second here.
happens in the next couple hours.
They can't really keep.
Can I move this over a little too?
They're just dialed in, aren't they?
Hey, Wes, how's this gonna look for,
Sue and D.
Sue and D?
It will not look for them.
Okay.
No way we can transmit.
We'll have to use our listening skills.
I'll try to tell you what I'm doing and where you.
Okay.
I don't know if everybody's gonna be able to see me. I don't want to.
In Zoom.
They're not in Zoom, they're just on the phone calling into Zoom. That's good. It's already up on the screen, it's being shared, so.
They could log in now too.
Unless we were to post, I mean, we could give them the site to go to. That would probably, if they wanted to follow along and they had a computer available.
I'll try to tell them what I'm doing, and if you have a computer, you can try to follow along, or you'll be able to see this later. So, but I will definitely try to describe what I'm doing. I'm going to show you the board portal. This is actually in response to requests from board members who were here last year in 20 that we did an extensive research project to find out how we could improve our board engagement and board communication issues. We did a survey of all board members. We conducted phone interviews of selected board members. One of the things that came out of all of that was that you wanted to see everything that you needed to know about Rails board service in one sitting. You also wanted to know more about each other. So that's what we've tried to do with the portal. And where I am is I'm on the home page of the Rails website, which is just railslibraries.info if our phone want to follow along. I think all of you have a handout except probably the people on the phone that will give you the address for that as well. And I'm going to go to the About section. And in the About section, there's a Board of Directors section, and you'll see there that the very last item is the board. So that's what I have on the screen right now. And there are basically three sections. There's a section on board members, there's a section on training and resources, and there's a section on About Rails. And I'm going to just go through those briefly. And then over on the right side, you'll always see the next board meeting, and you'll always see the agenda items and the packet items for that board meeting. And there'll also be a link at the very bottom if you want to go back to all the board meetings from when Rails started. You can go through all of our board meetings that way. But let me just go, I'm on the board members page right now. We start out with a list of our board members with their pictures. And some of this information is not filled in. We don't have the pictures uploaded of our new board members, but those were taken today. You'll also notice that some of the officers, we haven't updated some of that because that was just voted today. So that update all that. And you'll also see this expertise section here. This was one of the things you asked for, like you wanted to know a little bit more about each other, like what your strengths were. And you'll see that that section is not too filled in. There is something here for Paul. You see here we're looking at what Paul has for his section, library and finance. So we're basically just interested in brief phrases or words there. If you want to supply those to us, we'll gladly fill that in. You can tell me, you can tell Deirdre, you can tell Emily, we'll gladly fill that in. Just gives you a way to know what each other's strengths and specialties are. Then we also have a section term expirations for all of the board members. There's a section of committees, and again, this will not be up to date right now, but we will update it with all the committee members. It has the committee charges, it has packets of information for the committees. Like I'll just go to the advocacy committee. Again, this isn't going to, but you'll see that you can click, to see all the previous meeting documents, or you can click to see the charge. But it's the members that we're going to need to update based on your actions today. Then there's also a section on requirements and laws. And here you'll have, some of these will look familiar to you. You'll see the job description there. There's a link to the Rails bylaws. The Illinois State Library, this is particularly the requirements in the administrative code for system board members. So if you want to see those, you can look right there. Then you'll also see here, we have some other useful document, travel reimbursement form. If we do go and have a board meeting in another library, you can certainly be reimbursed for your travel, hotel room, that type of thing. So that form is right there. There's a link to the Open Meetings Act, other policies here, meeting by electronic means. There's a form, you'll all need to fill that out. There's executive director job description, since one of your big tasks is to evaluate the performance of the executive director. We thought that would be a good thing to have here. The goals, you just approved those today, so those will also be added, a link to Deirdre's goals. We have a section on board email accounts. This just gives you a little basic information. All of you need to have a Rails board address, email address. You'll have the handy link there if you need assistance from IT. And then this last section we have it's called New Board Member Orientation. These are the slides for those of you who attended the orientation this morning. If you want to go home and go over those slides again, those are right there. Or the rest of you who are not there might want to look at that. That's the actual PowerPoint presentation. And then we have some frequently asked questions that are probably good for anybody that wants a refresher. Just things like how often does the board meet and what our fiscal year is, those types of things. So that's basically the board member section. Are there any questions about that before I just go on here? The next section is training and resources. And here it will be training before. This is the information on our website. We have a partnership with United for Libraries. Some of you may have taken this training. This is actually available via our website. You do have to log in. We also have tagged here, Rails often has additional programs that are library board members. We have links here to upcoming events. We go in and tag things that we think would be of interest to trustees. So all of those things would be listed here. And we've also listed things from our CE archives. We have over 100 CE on our CE archives. And you'll see here there, anything that we think would be of interest to trustees, we've tagged there. So those will come up as well. And this will keep just automatically regenerating with new offerings. So that's that. Then we also have something, we have a Freedom of Information Act hotline. Some of you may know about that. We have a partnership with Ansel Glink that they'll answer basic questions, basic FOIA or Open Meeting Act questions. That'll take you there. And then we also have some additional resources. It's Rails Glossary. Will likely come in acronyms in the library field. There are also just terms that you'll probably hear in the board meetings, like consortium. I mean, you might not know about that. We've tried to include our different services here, like you'll see Explore More Illinois, Find More Illinois. We've tried to put everything here that we think you might want to know. Certainly we'll keep adding to this as well, but this will hopefully help you sort through some of that information. And then we also have, you'll be hearing more probably from Emily about the required, you're all required to take Freedom of Information Act and Open Meetings Act training, and I'm not sure where you are with that, but that link to that, if you want more information, you'd get to that page. So that's the training section. And then the final section, we have an About Rails section. And this has a variety of different information. There's background history about Rails. Again, you'll see a link to the, Deirdre was talking before. There's a link to our strategic plan. You can find under Rails staff, you can see our organizational chart, and I think this is up to date actually. And then we also have a link to our staff directory on our website. Pictures aren't showing, but we also have a section for Rails member libraries. And there you'll see that we have our new resource sharing map. It was just updated. We don't have multiple copies, but this is the most, for those of you in the room, this is the most up-to-date copy. You can also see this online. If you just click on that, you'll see different areas and things and kind of hone in on different areas. See, who's in consortia, who's not. Again, the white areas are those who do not have library service, so that there you can take a look at that. And then the final section is just this is just kind of a broad overview of services. We do have more information about these on our website. For example, we have continuing education, consulting, delivery. We have some of our newer initiatives. We have Find More Illinois, Explore More Illinois. So this is just a basic introduction to our different programs and services. I'll link to, if those of you have seen that little booklet we have about Rails services, we have a link to that here. So this too will continually update and try to provide you with the current information. So that's what we have right now. I'm really interested in what is missing, what any comments. This is for you. This was again based on your input, so we want to make sure this is as useful to you as possible.
I like it a lot. I think it's great to have it all in one place. So I appreciate it.
Great.
Yeah, I think this will be great, especially also for recruiting new board members when telling people like the board member.
Great, that's a great point, yeah.
Great job, Mary.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Yep.
Anything you see missing, just
Yep.
let me know. Again, if you want to fill in your expertise, let any of us know. We'll gladly do that. But, oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Just a quick suggestion about the glossary, maybe put an A to Z index there to help.
That's a good idea. Thank you. Did I miss anybody else? Great, thank you very much. Oh, I thought you were, I thought we were just raising turn off the screen. Thank you.
I know for our new board members, this has been a big data dump, a lot of information. I'd like to say, if you have any questions, Rails staff, Deirdre is wonderful, happy to help you. In the past, we have done board buddies where a board member has paired with a new one, and that way you have someone you might feel a little more comfortable with going to ask a question or something. If something comes up that you just prefer to have just a little simple question like that. If the board is interested, we could look to reinstitute that if our new board members would like friends.
Okay.
If, and not to put anyone on the spot, but maybe if our experienced, board, if someone would like to volunteer today to be a board buddy, and I will happily volunteer to be one. If anyone else, Gwen, and Tom, and Nadia, and Dave, thank you. So we just need to pair up our board buddies. So the concept just, it's just a low stress way. You can say, hey, I have this question. Can you help me understand how this works? I think that'd be really help facilitate.
I think you two are natural buddies.
Yes.
You used to work at
This is Iowa ALA folder.
Yes.
with all the new members need to get those.
Oh, you mean the ILA laws?
No, the little thing, the talking point.
Oh, sure. Yep, Mary will get them. Good idea, thank you.
Great, that's great. I mean, Gwen and Sarah, from academic perspective, would that be good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know both you and Scott, so I'm good with either one.
I'm willing.
I'll flip a coin.
Well, so, yeah.
Flip a coin. Or I'll just call both of you.
Sure, yeah.
Sunday and Monday.
Selena,
I don't know anybody, so.
Yeah. Well, and just, we're both, we're all three public library directors, so I think, Scott, I'd be happy to, reach out to either of us. So.
Email both of us and we'll see which one answers first.
I was gonna go with.
Or you pick the answer you like best.
Yeah, that's always reasonable. No, thank you all. That's
Yes,
wonderful.
thank you.
Do we pair everybody up then? Are we all paired? Wow. Yeah.
That was easy.
Well, there'll be another one though, so.
And then we'll, yes, then we will.
Right.
So, thank you, everybody. Next, we move on to Rails board member reports, and this is an opportunity for board members to let the rest of the board know of any event programming or a program or event going on at their library in their area that they'd like to share with the board.
Megan just grabbed it.
Thank you, Mary.
I have a little update.
Yes, please.
So our library is in phase 2 of its massive renovation. First renovations since we opened in 1977.
Oh.
So it's a long time
Yeah.
coming. And so phase 2 is underway. We should be done hopefully next year, April of next year. So we just finished our public restrooms, which looks amazing. Like I go in there and I'm like, oh. The children's area is going to be probably last on our agenda of things to get done, but we're really brown brick wall at the back of our building. Essentially we're 27,000 square feet, one big box. We cannot build upwards, no basement, whatever. So we have to make do with what we have, and we're gonna knock out this ugly brick wall, and we're gonna have just natural light flooding in through big windows. So really excited. So when we are done with the project, I'd like to invite everyone and have a nice tour. And also, I informed our library director a few months ago about Explore More, and she got it on the front of our
Yes,
newsletter
thank you.
and been advertising it online, and so I've gotten. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. That's wonderful news about that brick wall. Haven't seen it.
The Bartlett Public Library will be starting to lend ukuleles.
Oh,
wow. That's so cool.
It's just starting. It might be a month or two before they're ready to go out, but last board meeting, there was, presentation was made. I guess somebody has donated some to the library, so we're gonna, and I learned that ukuleles are a big thing with the younger generation. So,
Yeah.
that's what we're gonna be doing.
That's great.
Perhaps you might be willing to do a demonstration at a future board meeting, Dave?
No.
So at Waukegan, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but we are, I'm the chair for the Complete Count Committee for the census for the city of Waukegan, and we won one of the grants through Forefront to do census work. We've just completed our toolkit and our logo. In August, we'll be inviting everyone from Waukegan to try to improve response rates for the census, and I'll be sharing that with libraries in Lake County, definitely. I can share it wider also. Also in August, our Ray Bradbury statue will be installed, 11-foot statue that will be going on the front corner of our property. Luckily will not be facing my window, but there will be quite the celebration. We have a VIP event and then a public event. The Waukegan Symphony will be playing.
Right.
The astronaut and various other people that are very important to Bradbury's life, and food trucks, has to be food. But that will be August 22nd. So, and it's a Thursday evening.
I'll plead ignorance. Is he from Waukegan?
He is from Waukegan. I think there's hopes to do something about dandelion wine. I've never had it. I don't know how that's going to work. But we'll be reading his poems and pictures and activities for kids and things of that sort. So lots of stuff.
Awesome.
That's great.
So tomorrow, the reason being covered in sawdust and sweat is because tomorrow is our biggest event of the year. It's Comicopolis. It's like a mini C2E2 Comic-Con type of thing. This is year number 5 for us. We hold it in Lockport at our Lockport branch. And all the planets have aligned this year. The weather, we got a bunch of money given to us by the city to expand the event. The last 3 years, we had over 1,000 people show up. It's just a one-day thing. Year 1, it was 800. Years 2, 3, 4, it was over 1,000. Who knows what tomorrow will be? But it's the marketing is, we're getting traction with marketing and across like Facebook without us planting seeds everywhere. So we're kind of like, ooh, what's going to happen tomorrow? So who knows? I'll report next month.
Yeah.
We might get 1,500. We might get, who knows? It's open-ended, but it's an all-ages event and it's free. So, and the weather. Yeah, thank you.
Sue or Dee, is there anything you'd like to share?
Not at this time, Paul.
Okay.
Not at this time, thanks.
Anything else anyone would like to share? From the Fountaindale Public Bookmobile, our current vehicle was built in 2002. So if you think about vehicle life, that's a long life. our staff's very excited to get a new one. It'll be a hybrid powertrain, which are really nice. That'll fit with our LEED Gold building. It's only 13 months away, I think, by the time the new one.
A long time to get a vehicle.
It is. It is.
It's a complicated vehicle.
All right, well, this takes us next to the next to last item on our agenda building for the next Rails Board meeting. And this is an opportunity to discuss what we would like to discuss next month. One is the draft of our annual report, which we are required to provide to the Illinois State Library by September 30th. So there's one item.
Mhm.
Is there anything else?
Privacy?
Privacy for our board development. Is there anything else that the board would like to see on the agenda for next month? Besides our usual exciting things of paying bills and reports that we have.
So this is just an idea, but another hat that I wear, I serve on the Illinois Library Association Public Policy Committee. And one of the things that we struggle with every year is that committee does two things. It sort of reacts to legislation that's been proposed, and we also try to propose legislation that will help libraries. It's always like pulling teeth to get library people to speak up and say, wow, I wish this law could change, whether you're a school library or public library or whatever. So I don't know if there's some little 5-minute dog and pony show.
But that could be a good board development.
Yeah, later month, right?
For later months, for the public policy committee.
Do it in August if we're going to do it because of the timing.
It's fine.
Yeah, just as an agenda item.
Yeah, okay.
Great.
What do we do when we make our draft for the report to the Illinois State Library? Is there going to be workshop it together?
Which report?
The one that we have to talk about next.
Oh, the annual report?
Yes.
No, it's very much pro forma. I mean, I shouldn't say that. It's a very, there's a
Format.
a template
Okay.
that we have to,
Yeah.
it's vehicles and mileage, and so thank you very much, but fortunately for you.
There's not a lot of paragraphs.
Right.
That's fine.
Yes. Yeah, no.
I love writing a report.
It's a very good question, but the kind of reports that we have to report. Yeah. Is that a fair description, would you say, Jane? And yeah. So no worries.
Paul?
Yes.
I have
Yes.
one.
Yes,
Joe,
sir.
the census meeting that was held here last week, was that recorded?
It was, yeah.
Is
The Education Archives page, I believe it's already kind of labeled as featured program, and so it's right at the top.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know your library is very active in that
Yes.
as well, and they were panelists, or I believe, was it Ashley? Or was
Yes,
here?
Ashley and Catherine.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other topic for next month? Bless you.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Well, if not, we're moving on to adjournment, and I will declare this meeting adjourned at 2:45 PM. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.